Have you ever been so close to ruin that the mere scent of success felt like a cruel joke? We all know that feeling. That pit in your stomach when rent is due, the car needs a repair, and the bank account reads exactly $0.00. Desperation is a cruel advisor. It whispers shortcuts. It promises immediate relief, often at the cost of your future peace. But what if the greatest change in your life wasn't about the money you got, but the money you chose to give up? What if the most crucial choice of your existence took only 3 seconds to make? This is the story of Leo, a young man who was tested not by strength, but by silence, and how a single act of absolute honesty defined the rest of his journey. While we listen to the story, we will also learn some new words about integrity, character, and the long-term investment of doing the right thing. Our story begins 5 years ago in a small, struggling town outside of Atlanta, Georgia. It was January. The air was brutally cold and carried the sting of wet snow. Leo worked at Henderson's Home Supply, a dusty, old-fashioned hardware store that smelled perpetually of turpentine and fresh pine. He was 22 years old, putting himself through community college, scraping by on a minimum wage paycheck that barely covered the leaky roof over his head. This month, things were worse than usual. His old truck had finally coughed its last breath. He had been walking 3 miles each way to work, and his tuition payment was due in 3 days. He was short, maybe $200, which felt like $200 million. That night, he was closing up. The wind rattled the single glass pane near the register. He was sweeping the aisles, pushing the fine white dust into a corner, his mind swimming in stress. He was thinking about calling his mother, but he knew she had nothing to spare. He was planning to sell his few textbooks just to make the deadline. He felt heavy, defeated. As he swept near the shelf dedicated to specialized brass fittings, he saw something unusual. Not a stray nail or a dropped washer. It was a bulky, thick envelope, tucked carelessly behind a box of plumbing joints. It looked official. It looked heavy. Leo stopped sweeping. He knelt down, his heart starting a dull, painful rhythm against his ribs. His hands, usually steady from stacking lumber all day, were shaking. He pulled the envelope out. It was heavy cardstock, plain brown, sealed with cheap packaging tape. He didn't have to open it to know what it was. But the curiosity, fueled by desperation, was a burning itch. He peeled the tape back slowly, carefully, hoping to reseal it if he needed to. He held his breath. Inside were stacks of hundreds and fifties, secured tightly with thick rubber bands. It wasn't $200. It wasn't $2,000. He quickly counted the bands. 5 stacks of crisp, new bills. By his quick calculation, it was close to $5,000. Maybe more. $5,000. This wasn't just tuition money. This was a new engine for the truck. This was 6 months of rent paid in advance. This was breathing room. This was salvation. His mind locked onto that number. $5,000. 5 seconds passed. The silence of the store magnified the chaos erupting in his skull. Nobody knew he had found it. Mr. Henderson, the owner, had left an hour ago. The security camera, an ancient thing, only pointed at the main door. He could slip it into his backpack, walk home, and tomorrow, life would be fundamentally, wonderfully different. He could escape the cold, the debt, the worry. He could buy food that wasn't instant noodles. He could finally start building the life he dreamed of. He pulled the envelope tighter against his chest, the paper crisp and cold against his thin work shirt. But then the second voice began. It was quiet. It wasn't the sound of desperation. It was the sound of truth. He saw the face of Mr. Henderson. Not a rich man, not a corporate CEO. Just a kind, honest, hard-working man who sometimes stayed late just to help Leo with a physics problem. Mr. Henderson's hair was thin, his hands were calloused, and he had been running this store since before Leo was born. $5,000 to Mr. Henderson might be everything. It might be the cash necessary to pay the winter heating bill or keep the 3 other part-time staff employed. Leo stood there, frozen, the cash burning a hole in his hands. This was the 3-second decision. Was he a temporary thief, solving a temporary problem, or was he Leo, the honest student, facing a massive test of character? He looked down at the money. It smelled like the bank, new and clean. He looked up at the faded sign above the counter that read, "Building Trust, since 1972. He took a deep breath, the cold air scraping his throat. The moment of temptation snapped. The chaos subsided. He walked, slowly, deliberately, toward the back office. He didn't put the money away. He didn't hide it. He grabbed the office telephone. His hand was still trembling as he dialed Mr. Henderson's home number. It rang once, twice. A tired voice answered. "Hello, this is Robert." "Mr. Henderson, it's Leo. I found something. I think it belongs to the store, or maybe one of the customers." He didn't elaborate. He didn't mention the amount. He just stated the fact. Mr. Henderson was back at the store in less than 10 minutes. He rushed in, his face pale and lined with worry. "Leo, what is it? What's wrong?" Leo simply held out the brown envelope. "I found it tucked behind the brass fittings. It was on the floor." Mr. Henderson took the envelope. He didn't open it. He didn't even look at the contents. He looked directly into Leo's eyes. "You found this," Mr. Henderson stated, his voice barely a whisper. "And you called me?" "Yes, sir, I did," Leo replied, suddenly feeling a wash of clarity. The relief was not in finding the money, but in deciding to give it back. Mr. Henderson slowly reached out and placed a large, heavy hand on Leo's shoulder. "Leo, that money was the quarterly deposit. It was my worst fear realized. I must have dropped it right before I left." He pulled the tape and quickly counted the stacks. He confirmed the full amount was there. $5,450. Every penny. Mr. Henderson sat down on the dusty stool behind the counter, rubbing his eyes. "Son, you have no idea what this means. This money keeps the lights on until the spring rush. Without it—" He trailed off, shaking his head. He took out his worn leather wallet. He pulled out 2 $100 bills, crisp and new, and held them out to Leo. "Thank you, Leo. Take this, for your honesty." Leo looked at the reward. $200, exactly the amount he needed for tuition. He had returned $5,000 to receive $200. It felt like cosmic justice. But the story doesn't end there. Mr. Henderson put the money back in the safe, but he kept looking at Leo, an appraisal in his eyes that had never been there before. "Leo, tell me again why you need that $200. Leo explained his tuition crisis, his need for the truck, his struggle to balance work and school. Mr. Henderson listened patiently. When Leo finished, the old man leaned forward. "Leo, honesty is not a business transaction. It is not something you trade for a bonus. It is the foundation of who you are. If you build a house on sand, it collapses under the first storm. If you build it on bedrock, it withstands decades. You just proved that your bedrock is strong. You didn't just pass a test of character. You showed me the full structure of your future." He then picked up the phone and made a call to his local bank manager, a friend of his. He didn't ask Leo if he wanted a raise. He offered him something far greater. Mr. Henderson offered to mentor him, to teach him the business side of the hardware store, to groom him to eventually manage the whole operation. He told Leo, "Money can be replaced. Trust cannot. I can teach anyone how to sell a hammer. I cannot teach a person to have integrity when they are alone in a room with $5,000. He then wrote Leo a check, not for a bonus, but a small loan, interest-free, enough to cover his tuition and put a down payment on a dependable used car. And he gave him a significant raise, starting the next day. 5 years later, Leo wasn't just managing the store, he was buying a stake in it. He had graduated college and was now the full partner of Mr. Henderson. His life was stable, prosperous, and built on a foundation of absolute trust. That 3-second decision, the moment he chose the bedrock over the quick fix, changed everything. This story teaches us the profound lesson that integrity is not just an abstract virtue. It is the most valuable currency in the world. When faced with a crisis, our true character is revealed, and that character dictates our ultimate destiny. Desperation offers immediate gratification. Integrity offers permanent respect. Honesty is not what you do when people are watching. It is who you are when nobody is around, especially when a fortune is within easy reach. We must remember the words of the great Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. The time is always right to do what is right. We must choose the heavy, slow work of building character over the light, fast theft of opportunity. That foundation will support not just your house, but your entire life. I'll be back again with another inspiring story. Till then, be patient, be thankful, and keep moving forward in life.